Today I want to talk about EMF radiation, electromagnetic frequency radiation, coming from these cell towers and coming from our cell phones in many other different ways, but cell phone is one that we can control. You definitely don't want to keep your cell phone by you all the time. You don't need to. We live in this world saturated where we need to be so connected to our social media and to people by way of phone that it's okay. You don't have to have your phone on you at all times. You don't have to carry it with you in your pocket all the time, or keep it by your bed. That's why that teenagers right now are starting to develop cancer, which is already crazy that you can have cancer at that age, just from keeping their phone in their pockets all these years, developing butt, genital cancer. Yeah, water is affected directly by these frequencies, and it's measurable, and we are 99% by molecular count water, so therefore it's going to affect us. Veda Austin, she did 3 years ago, she brought a petri dish out to a 5G tower and just set it by the tower for 15 minutes and then came back home and froze it, and she just freezes it like quickly, so it only freezes the bottom layer and there's still water on top. Pour the water out and looks at the crystallography, and she saw that it had a huge shock wave, like in the middle of it, as if it had been affected, which it obviously was. And the reason I mentioned the method of doing it, right? So since there's still water in there, you can let it melt and then refreeze it, and you can do that around 6 to 8 times, according to her, over and over again, so that way she could remeasure it over and over again. And every single time that she refroze it, it would be a little less destroyed. The shock would be a little smaller, but it was always there. So she recently, I think in the past 6 months, she did that same exact experiment again, where she brought the petri dish of water to the 5G tower and then froze it. And this one, the first time, it still had a shock wave in it, but after she repeated it for about 6 or 8 more times, but even on the second one, the shock was gone. It had formed back to completely fine crystallography, and I think that really speaks in a good light of our situation right now. Not that 5G is good, but that our bodies, since we're all water, are adapting to these frequencies that are being blasted at us. We're able to heal this, since there's not much we can do about the 5G tower being there or the phones in our lives. Not that you shouldn't take measures to prevent it if possible, to mitigate if possible, but that our bodies adapt so well, so amazingly, that we are adapting in just that 3-year period. It's such a small window that we have our bodies are coming to a stage where we're able to heal and repair that and handle those sort of frequencies, because we're being blasted by them more and more every day. And then it makes you kind of think, like, if there's like a time traveler from like the medieval ages or something like that, and he were somehow time traveled to here, he would just be destroyed by the amount of frequencies that he's receiving, that we have just grown accustomed to and are now thankfully able to heal from. So yeah, on the topic of phone doing damage, don't leave your phone like in your crotch or like on your leg while you're driving as well. There's no reason. Just put it on the side of you or something. Definitely don't put it by your head while you're sleeping, especially at night. You may as well just put it in airplane mode or turn it off or something like that. It's not like you're going to use it at night anyway. And I find it also kind of interesting that we're done with lead paint. They've made sure lead paint's completely removed from all houses. They said that, they're worried about kids eating paint chips, these lead paint chips. Do you think they really cared? Do you think they really gave a damn about what the kids were doing? They don't take care of anybody now. No, they did not care that these kids were eating paint chips and the lead paint chips were poisoning them. There's a reason why we got rid of lead paint from homes. It's because lead paint works as a shielding from electromagnetic frequencies, from the electromagnetic frequency radiation that's beaming through everyone's house now. So you would actually have protection in your own home with these layers of lead paint. And there's a big talk about this magnetic pole shift that's going on right now, are coming in the near future. We see it all over the news, or at least the articles, like science articles and stuff, about this magnetic pole shift. Well, there's only one pole. There's the North Pole, but there ain't no South Pole. There's not no one single spot, so you don't have to really worry about these whole pole flipping. There's nothing to be worried about. Don't get scared or terrified or anxious by that fear mongering in the news. That's not something that's actually something to be worried about. Also, I forgot, I mean, like x-rays. You see the assistant, they wear all kind of gear whenever you're taking your x-rays. I mean, you're getting blasted once again, but I mean, think about also when you're getting on planes. So you got to go through all these different things to scan, and then you're subject to so many other frequencies that are also going on through the airport and the plane and landing. I mean, you're getting blasted flying. Wouldn't it be better if there was a better way, a much more relaxed way of flying too? Something like, I don't know, maybe airships, like this video. I mean, airships are in a really bad light. We don't think of airships the right way for a reason. The real actual airships, Zeppelins, had a metal hull. They weren't made of, it wasn't just the canopy at the bottom, and they were much smaller. And there was no fear of them just exploding. I mean, the only one we have is the Hindenburg, right? And that's where it all ended. The Hindenburg, there's only photos of it on fire, and there managed to be 47 different photographers in the area to capture it being on fire, which is, I mean, it makes sense. You know, back then everyone could just pull out their phone and record real instantly. No, wait, these guys had to set up their cameras and get ready for just the right shot, almost as if it was planned. That's weird. Would that be because possibly big oil can't make any money off of airships? Because I mean, if you look at this video of the airships, there's tons of room for you to walk around, different things to do, maybe get your hair cut, even go dancing, bowling, something like that. There's multi different stages to it. There's even some images with you can be on the very roof looking around. I mean, I'm sure that'd be an amazing view. And sure, you could argue they're a little bit slower than regular planes, but you know what? I would trade a little bit slower time for an actual enjoyable ride, almost like a train ride, but even better, where you can just take the ship from here to there and back, and the entire time you were relaxed, you did what you wanted, you were actually able to enjoy the trip. You weren't just getting packed in like sardines. I think that is the real way of travel, and we are lost to that. We are so used to these airplanes now, and it's disgusting, because the only reason is because of the Hindenburg, and then it's gone. We don't even think about airships anymore, and people only think of them as blimps now, and that you can only be at the canopy at the bottom, but that's so far from the truth. I mean, they would even pull up to these mooring lines, these buildings with these tall points at the top, which we see all throughout the plane, and you would just dock up, and people could take the elevator up and down. So the ship could stay in the air pretty much indefinitely, and it was also getting recharged from the actual building, the structure itself, that was pulling energy from the ground. We know that you have to connect circuits to the ground, so there's electricity flowing through there, and you can just charge up the airships, and big oil couldn't get any cut of that. There's no gas being used, so it's a pretty big problem for them. When we think of airships, though, where do we really see them? We see them pretty much in fantasy, in a steampunk era. When you think of a steampunk era, everyone knows about a steampunk era. No one knows when. No one knows when it actually when that time period is, and I find that really interesting, because it was not that long ago, and we have already had that completely erased from our global social consciousness. We have no recollection of when that was. We can't slot that into the timeline, but we know it happened, and that's just astounding to me, because it was only literally like 100 years and prior. We were in this era of steampunk where they were not using, but I mean piggybacking on the last of what they knew of the ancient technology around them and making the best of it. And that's where we see airships, that we don't remember it because they fucking reset us like they've done so many times. And this is the most recent reset that happened in the 1800s. I mean, look at all these orphanage buildings that they have in this clip here. I mean, there were so many of them. They were all founded in the 1800s, probably some of them even the late 1700s. Founded is a really funny word too. They literally founded. They didn't build it. They would have said built. It says founded. They founded just like that. These were giant, massive structures, and they just were nice enough to house all the orphans in here. They had so many orphans for some reason. I don't know why there was such an issue. And they lived an absolute luxury for some reason. I mean, not that I have anything against that, but I just find it interesting that they were living in these giant mansions that housed all of these orphans. It's almost as if they had to repopulate because there were so many orphans and orphanages in these very interesting, immaculate, strange buildings, which already, that's a whole nother video of its own, of how strange and amazing those buildings are, that they are repurposing for children orphanages, just like they did insane asylums as well, and have done. But we even have proof that they sold babies, and this video shows a little bit of that as well. I mean, they had postcards of selling babies. It was very common to sell children, sell little babies in this form of the Cabbage Patch, right? Cabbage Patch Kids. Well, that was a fad in the 90s, isn't that? I find that disgusting. It's really just in your face, like the subconscious, that we knew that existed, that was a thing, and then we just kind of play upon it. And they're even able to make money off of it, but it was a very real thing. And then now that kind of muddies up all the history on it, because they're like, oh, you're talking about the little Cabbage Patch baby little kids. I had one of those, you know, in the 90s as a kid. I mean, I didn't, but I'm just saying in general. I mean, and it messes with the historical timeline, which his story, I mean, that thing is always getting twisted. So we have proof of them selling babies. We have these massive amount of orphanages, insane amount of orphans, and this is all in the 1800s, going into the early 1900s. And then we have no recollection of steampunk era, which literally just happened. I find that pretty interesting, pretty suspect. Yeah, we got fucking reset, just like they're trying to do right now. They keep calling, they're telling us the Great Reset, the 2020 Great Reset, 2025 Great Reset, 2030 Great Reset. They keep telling us in the media this Great Reset. They're trying to do it again. They're literally trying to do it again, right in front of our eyes. They always let us know. And a lot of people are letting it happen. But right now is also a time where we've reached a point of global consciousness and remembering that we're able to see through it and dissociate with it. And that's the thing. That sort of timeline, it'll always still play out. But you can also choose your own reality, as we all live in our own reality, which is relative to you, and separate yourself from that, and then it's not a part of your life. So yeah, that's where they scare you. They want to make it to where you're too afraid to leave society, that you depend upon society, but you don't need society. I mean, this is the age of Aquarius that we just entered. This is grassroots communities coming up, and that's what it's come to now, to grow and join these real grassroots communities where you have a bunch of different skills and you all work together and depend upon each other, and you really don't need that much. Society just is always selling us as a consumer that we need all these different things, but you really don't need that much if you grow on your own land. I mean, Paul Gauci shows how to do a real back to Eden garden, where he just uses wood chips, not just any wood chips, but I mean actual chips from a tree that's been shredded up. So it has it's fresh wood, but it's also got a mixture of leaves and dead or stuff that can now decay and be nutrients. for the area. And that's the real way to do a garden and to self-sustain, and to do it self-sustainably, where you're not tilling the land and it's not cumbersome. And most importantly, you're not using these chemical-filled fertilizers. Like, they love to tout organic fertilizers or organic food and stuff like that. There's still chemicals in the fertilizer, and then those are the chemicals that you consume through the vegetables and the fruit that you're growing. So it's still not even organic. If you're actually growing from just wood chips, maybe a little compost to get it started, but primarily just wood chips, then you're getting actually real unchemical added food. And if you don't think that can work, look at a forest. People go in and till the forest. No, a forest grows completely by itself. Completely by itself, doesn't need any help. And that's because the wood chips that fall down on top of it from the trees nourish the whole ground and also keep it from flooding. These rainforests, they should be absolutely below sea level. I mean, just like sunken, flooded at all times. But wood has this crazy trait of absorbing or dispersing water as it needs to, so that the ground is always maybe a little mushy, but definitely not like just flooded with water as what we would think it should be. Once again, the most exciting time to be alive. We have the opportunity and the wisdom, the knowledge to know what we can do and what we should do. And that's the whole point of this YouTube channel, to present that knowledge and offer it for you to either take or not take, or to specifically to look into it yourself some more. But because I can't convince you, and I'm not trying to convince you, I just want to present the information, and then you have to look into it further, because you're the only person that can convince yourself anyway. So this whole idea is to convince you that there is an alternate option, and it's awesome. It's exciting. Not all this doom and gloom, all this apocalypse that's coming, this great reset. It's nothing you need to be worried about. If you focus on health and you know that everything's going to be fine, then it's going to be fine, because your beliefs create your reality. And it's all relative to you. So if you believe it's going to be fine, relative to you, it's going to be fine. And it is. Anyways, that's it for today.